are so honored and blessed to have Abuna Joshua with us tonight and to bless us with a spiritual word. Thank you so much, Abuna.
It's me who's blessed to be here, and this is the first time for me to attend Pascha in St. Mary's, and it's definitely an amazing, awesome church to pray, and you have an awesome set of deacons. May the Lord bless you. Today is the beginning of the journey of Pascha. And it's probably one of the difficult days that we can be asked to contemplate on. But I thought we can contemplate on 3 trees. Those of you that were attending in the morning, you find that there's 3 trees that the church speaks to us about today. The first is a tree that serves as an example for us to avoid. The second is a tree that we're asked, or we are told about how it became the source of our demise. And the third is the tree that we're actually called to journey towards, the tree of life. And the 3 of them are related. The first is this fig tree that the church speaks to us in the gospel, in the first gospel of the first hour today, in Monday day. And the problem with this fig tree is you find that corresponding the prophecy that the church presents to us in that same hour, the prophecy of the creation, how God created the world, how created everything for the sake of man, and gave man one commandment, and that commandment was to not eat from a single tree, which is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And you find in the same hour the prophecy of Isaiah. The church gives us the example that Isaiah gave us, where Christ says to us, what is there that I could have done for my vineyard and I didn't do? And as if God is reminding us, what is it that I could have done for you, O man, that I did not do, yet you chose to disobey me? And this reminds me of a game that we used to play when we were young. And I want you to keep this game in the back of your head, because everything, hopefully, we're going to contemplate about today is going to have a resemblance with this game. Kids always like to play this game, the game of opposites. Don't know if you were young, but we used to always have these words where you say a word and the other person has to say the opposite. Hot, cold, tall, short. Because when you look at today, you find it's as if this is what is happening. The first commandment was a commandment to not eat. The new commandment is take and eat of it, all of you, for this is my body and this is my blood. And the problem with the fig tree, that Christ speaks to us about it. It's as if Christ is saying to us, when I come to this tree and I find this tree full of leaves, deceiving, trying to make it look like it is full of fruit. But in fact, when I put my hand into that tree, it is void. It is trying to cheat me. And as if Christ is saying to us, this tree reminded me of that incident when Adam and Eve fell. Because when they fell, they went and hid. And the same tree, the same leaves, that same fig tree, they used to sow for themselves fig leaves and made themselves coverings. And for those of you that go to the account, and the account the church read for us in the 9th hour of this morning, the account of Genesis, of Adam and Eve. Because you find that God actually waited a long time for them to come, to make that journey back to Him. That's the journey He's asking us to make. What happened in that journey, you find that the gospel says to us, then they heard the voice of the Lord walking in the garden that afternoon. It means that after they partook of the fruit, after they fell, after they sinned, God waited until the afternoon, as if saying the same as what you heard in the gospel of the third hour tonight. Oh Jerusalem, I wish I could gather you as a hen gathers its children. God waited for Adam and Eve. Please, you fell, you trespassed, you transgressed. Come and confess. Come and seek repentance. Come and seek assistance from me. The gospel goes further. It's as if God was really, really trying to push the issue. You find the gospel continues, and when they heard the voice of God walking, He started walking and started make noise. Hey, I am here. You can come. Hear me. I exist. I could help. But they still kept hiding. And they still insisted on their disobedience. The gospel continues and says, Adam and his wife hid themselves within the tree in the middle of the garden from the presence of the Lord. Do you think God gave up? No, God continues. And He calls and He says, Adam, where are you? Do you think God did not know where Adam was? Yet another way that God is calling, saying, come and repent. Adam replies and says, I heard your voice as you were walking in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. Therefore, you find the church saying to us, don't be like that fig tree. Don't be like Adam and Eve. Don't try and cover your sin with your own doings, with your own markings, depending on yourself. Because that is not going to work. What you need is you need to make a journey. A journey from this tree, the tree of knowledge and evil, the tree that became the tree of death. And seek the tree of life. Those of you that continue in that same Genesis prophecy, you find that God continues and He says, now lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord sent him out of the garden of pleasure to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. So He cast out Adam and made him dwell opposite the garden of pleasure. He then stationed the cherubim and the fiery sword, which turns every way to guard the way to the tree of life. Therefore, a calling becomes a calling from the tree of death to the tree of life. One of the church fathers speaks to us about this tree of life, and he says it's as if when what happened to it, and Ephraim the Syrian says it's as if it was subsumed into the earth only to sprout again on Calvary. As if God had hid this tree for this tree to only appear again when? On the cross. Therefore, our journey through this week becomes a journey from a tree that is full of true fruit. When again you go back to the account, you find that when Satan came to tempt Eve, the mistake she made is she looked at it. So when the woman saw the tree was good for food, it was a pretty tree. It was a tree that was luscious. It was very attractive, very pleasing to the eye. And that tree still and continues to exist. And that tree is the tree from which we continue to consume fruit every day. But this fruit that we are consuming is sin. The fruit of that tree, the tree of this world, that this tree of death, I want you to remember it with the words pale gas. Have you ever heard these words? Pale gas. 7 fruits that you can eat from this tree. Pride, anger, lust, envy, gluttony, avarice, which is greed, sloth. They're the fruits that we can take from this beautiful tree. You want to approach this tree of the world. If you look at the world that surrounds us, you find that that's what is always on offer. That's what Satan is always pushing you to seek. Seek pride. Seek anger. Seek lust. Everything in our world today revolves around lust, envy, gluttony, greed. But remember, the game we said is the game of opposites. See, this bare tree that is fully naked, that is in the shape of the cross, on which hangs Christ, on which hangs life, the source of life, also has fruit. But that fruit is the opposite to the fruit of the first tree, the tree of death. That fruit is humility, the opposite of pride. Is patience, the opposite of anger. Is chastity, the opposite of lust. Contentment, the opposite of envy. Moderation, the opposite of gluttony. Liberality, which is the opposite of greed or avarice. Diligence, which is the opposite of sloth. And therefore this week becomes a week of journeying from these two opposites. Making that journey from the tree of death to the tree of life. Because on Friday, you will certainly have that tree of life here. And all of us will come to seek the fruit of that tree. And therefore you find tonight the church keeps reminding you of that. Keeps reminding us of what we need to do. In the first hour, the gospel said to you, strive to enter through the narrow gate. For many, I say to you, will seek to enter and will not be able to. The narrow gate is the tree of life. The narrow gate is humility. The narrow gate is patience. The narrow gate is chastity. The wide and open gate is pride. The wide and open gate is anger, is lust. And therefore the narrow gate is always difficult. You find the church continues and repeats it twice tonight. In the 3rd hour and in the 11th hour. Take heed, watch and pray, for you do not know when the time is. It was funny because yesterday I was speaking to my 12-year-old. I was trying and make him really focus on Holy Week. Teenagers, for them it's all about seeing their friends. Very hard to get a teenager to really sit and focus on this. So I asked him a question. I said to him, what if I told you that Sunday, Feast of Easter, is the last day on life and you're definitely going to heaven? You're definitely going to be standing in front of God. What would you do? And in classical teenage fashion, he looked for shortcuts. All of us look for shortcuts. He said to me, I'll go find someone that's higher than you and try and get an absolution. I'll go to Sayyidina or to the Pope and try and get an absolution quickly so I can make it into heaven. على طول, shortcuts. Here I am trying to encourage him to say, no, I will come, I will sit, I will attend. I will actually start seeking to know God more. La. He looked for a shortcut. Laziness. And in trying to seek that shortcut, I said to him, well, you know what? It's actually a really good answer. Your answer is probably the best answer that you could give. Because I really want you to seek someone who is higher. But that's not a bishop or a pope. Because in the church, you can come and speak to Christ. Because now is the time that Christ can give you that absolution that you're seeking. Now is actually the time for forgiveness. Because if Sunday was the last day, when you meet him next, it will not be the time for forgiveness. It will be the time for judgment. It will be the time for him to decide how you're going to end or how you're going to spend eternity. The church today keeps saying and keeps reminding us, take heed to yourself, lest your heart be weighed down. Take heed and prepare. Take heed and watch and pray, for you do not know when the time is. I made the assumption of saying it was next Sunday, but it could be any day. It could be anyone, any minute. No one knows. And all night tonight, the church is saying to us, seek the narrow gate. Prepare, because you do not know the time nor the hour. And glory be to God forever and ever. Amen.